All right, y'all. Well, here it is, as promised. Um, as you know, I'm not a YouTuber, so these are not going to be perfectly edited videos. They are going to be in flow, just, me kind of going off the top of my head, right from my spirit, shooting straight from my spirit. And I wanted to do a video that talked about the symbolism and the spiritual aspects, lessons that we can learn from Frozen 2. Just saw it last night. I want to tell you about me, first of all, that I am not going to remember any character's name other than Anna, Elsa, Olaf, Kristoff. I'm not going to remember anybody's name. And just so you know, there are going to be some spoilers here. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't like spoilers, you might want to wait until after you see the movie to dive in with me. So here we go. All right, so the show starts off with young Anna and young Elsa playing in their bedroom with Elsa's powers. She's making snow animals and they're making this enchanted forest, and their father and mother come in. They're watching them, and the father, in order to try to get them to bed, tells them a story about an enchanted forest that he was in. So basically, 30, well, I don't know time frame wise. Anyway, when he was a very, very young child, probably about 10, he told a story about how his father, who was the prince at the time, or the king at the time, created a dam for the indigenous people. And it was a peace offering between those of Arendelle and the indigenous folks. I don't know what their names are. So anyway, and that they had this one day where they all came to this place in this enchanted forest, and they came together to celebrate the peace offering that was the dam. They were all playing and they let their guards down, and apparently a riot of Arendelle, a riot ensues, and people begin to turn against one another. Instead of having fun in this joyous time, they turn against one another, and something, spirit, sweeps up the father, Anna and Elsa's father, and carries him to safety. And the spirits of the forest create a mist to keep people out of the enchanted forest. I'm assuming to keep those indigenous people safe and separate from the people of Arendelle. So on that day, Anna and Elsa's father, at the age of 10 or something like that, became the king. And so they never really knew what happened. And so Elsa and Anna are captivated by this story. Their mom sings them this song about a place, a river, where they can find out all the answers to all the truth of the world. They can go to this river, and it's quite a harrowing lullaby about if you go too far, you'll drown. You'll be drowned. It reminds us of, the old Rockabye Baby. Anyway, we know the story, how it goes. Elsa and Anna's mother and father go on a ship. Their ship is tossed and they drown. And that is when Elsa becomes queen. So now we fast forward to Elsa, who's hearing this strange voice calling her. It's a melodic sound, and it's in the distance, and it's evident that she is the only one that hears it. And at first she's frightened by it. She's startled. And it's causing her to kind of be troubled. She's not sure what's going on, but she is troubled to the extent that she starts to separate from her sister after they're playing a game of charades. So she goes away to her room, and Anna, finally gets a story out of her, that, she just is troubled and that she's hearing this voice. And so Anna sings her the lullaby that their mother sang to them about the the river where all the answers were, and they both fall asleep. Well, in the middle of the night, Elsa is woken again by this voice, and she sings one of her first songs about, she is not going to be listening to this voice. Keep in mind, I just want to say I've watched this movie one time. I would really like to watch it again because I know that there's so many things that I missed the first time. I watched Black Panther like 6 times for real. So anyway, and each time I got something new. But this is off the fly what I got from the first one. So there's this voice that's calling her. She's the only one that can hear it. She's walking through the palace, and finally she starts to connect with this voice, and the voice brings out these little diamonds, and she sings out to the voice, and she knows that she's awakened the spirit. She knows that she's awakened the spirit. And what happens after that is that all of these frozen elements basically are hanging in the air, and then they fall. And then what happens is the elements of the air, water, fire, and earth, they begin to act crazy. All of the water in Arendelle goes dry. The fire goes out. The rocks in the ground shakes, and it runs everybody out of Arendelle, and they're not quite sure what to do. But Elsa knows that she's awakened this voice, and she knows that she has to go to find out what's calling her. And Anna does not want to leave her sister. She feels still that she needs to protect her, which is interesting because she's the younger sister. But she still feels that she needs to protect her, and they need to do it together. I forgot one thing in the beginning. In the beginning, there's a song with Olaf and Anna about how things are never going to change and everything's going to stay the same. And, in the meanwhile, we know that all these things are happening, like Elsa's hearing these voices. Kristoff wants to propose to Anna, and there are so many changes that are happening. Yet Anna and Olaf really want things to stay the same. And so it's the struggle against growth, the growth of life, knowing that as we go to different stages in our life, as we conquer certain things in our life, we are going to change. We have to change because that is how we grow. So anyway, I'm going to go back so that has already happened in the beginning. So they all decide that they're going to go together to this enchanted forest. Elsa, Anna, Olaf, and Kristoff, along with Sven. So they get to this big fog that is blocking the forest. And as they try to go up, they realize there's a barrier there that is keeping them from going in. They cannot go in. So Olaf is enjoying bouncing off of the barrier. And Elsa and Anna hold hands, and they begin to walk through the barrier together. And for some reason, it allows them to go through, and they're all able to go through. And it's beautiful. They get on the other side, and the fog is now behind them. And again, they are not able to get through. Elsa even shoots, her frozen magic into the fog, and it bounces back. And so they are not able to return. And this reminds me of how in life, our soul knows the things that we are called to. It knows our destiny, and it's gonna show us the path of least resistance. And it started off with a melody, a song, and Elsa was resistant to that song and that melody, but it kept haunting her and calling her until she felt like she was such a part of it that she actually awakened it. And then it awakened a knowing to do the next thing, which was go to the forest and get answers, find out what really happened. So they get to the forest, And now they find the people who were trapped in this forest by the fog for 35 years. I think that's what they said, 35 years. There's a captain from the Arendelle army, and then there's also the indigenous people. What I'm uncertain of is, have these people been working and living together during this time, or have they still been staying on their separate sides and staying in the dark per se as to why they were against each other? Or have they learned to get along, or were they going their separate ways? I couldn't really tell that. So anyway, the indigenous people, tell Elsa and Anna that they shouldn't be there and that they only listen to the magic. They only listen to the spirits. And at that time, pink fire starts lighting up the forest. And so they begin to run, and Elsa automatically just feels like she needs to, snuff the fire out with her frozen magic. And she's fighting the fire, and Sven and Kristoff are trying to save the antelope, or the moose, or whatever Sven is, who have gone past the fire and there's no way out and they will be lost. And so they go to round them up, and Anna sees Elsa and she is trying to help her, but she's stuck behind the fire. And Kristoff is able to get her to safety, and then finally the fire subsides, and Elsa follows the fire, and then she notices that it's a little teeny gecko, really cute gecko. Here enters the Disney princess animal sidekick. So it's a little gecko who is the fire element, and he's really cute, and Elsa sees what he is and is no longer afraid of that magic, because, as you remember, her father tells her, that the magic of the forest, it seems as though it was something to be feared. That magic was to be feared. And if you remember from the first movie, she was afraid of her power. Then she finally understood that she could embrace it and that she could use it for good. But anyway, so she sees this little, gecko, and she becomes friends with it. And now she has united with fire. And she hears the voice again, and the gecko turns. And so they know that they both are hearing this voice. No one else can hear. And right here is where I get a little confused about what happened next. I know that Elsa feels like they need to go further. And so Elsa and Anna move forward into the forest, while Kristoff decides that he is going to partner up with this indigenous person who is going to teach him how to do this really romantic proposal for Anna, which includes a bunch of moose, and what looked like a heart-shaped pile of dung. Anyway, so as Kristoff is doing this power 80s ballad, which was hilarious, and it reminded me of the song Glory of Love. It was hilarious. But while he's off preparing this proposal, Elsa and Anna are going off a little bit further. They're going further north to find out some things. And then we also know that the earth element is giants, earth giants, and the indigenous people are fearful of them, and so they go to hide. And Elsa and Anna go, and they come across their parents' ship. And so they're very interested in finding what this ship holds. And so Anna knows Arendelle ships, and she says there's a watertight area where they are able to, save things, kind of like the black box of the ship. And so they find this black box area, and they find a map, and we see that Elsa and Anna's parents decided that they needed to find out what was going on with Elsa, with her magic. Again, being fearful of what that magic was going to do, why it was happening. And they decided that they were going to go to this river that the mother sang about, that was the place where all answers could be received. So at that time, Elsa does some magic. And what we learned a little bit earlier on through their travels into this enchanted forest, Olaf tells them that water has memory. And so that all the water that surrounds us has been in, through, and has touched all the people, animals, at some point. And so it has memory. And so what we find is they are able Elsa is able to create these images of, oh darn, I messed up a whole lot. There's some things that I didn't mess up, but here's the thing. There's some things that I'm leaving out, which are good, because if you need to see this movie, then you're going to be surprised at some point. But here we go. So she brings up the water from the ship and she freezes it, and she's able to see her parents holding on to each other in their last moments before the ship went down. And basically, as they were trying to get to this river, the water got rough and took out their ship. And so she feels responsible that her parents have died because of her. And now again, she is thrust back into this not understanding her purpose and feeling as if she is a danger to people. And she tricks her sister and Olaf into hugging her. And then she sends them in an ice boat far, far away where they cannot go with her, because the next step is she is going to go to this river further north. And so this is the part that we see in the trailer where Elsa is running into the water and doing her ice magic and trying to go in. And then a horse, which is the spirit of the water, is trying to drown her, literally trying to drown her. Meanwhile, Anna and Olaf are really upset and really angry at Elsa. But they're really angry that things are changing, especially Olaf. He's very angry, and he's realizing that, everything that they've worked for in the past, that it's changing, and that's frustrating him. And then they come upon these earth giants that they see, and they quietly go into a small cavern in the water, and they're able to get out and walk through these tunnels. And they begin to walk through the tunnels. Meanwhile, Elsa has now fought the water and overcome the water and befriend the water element. And now the horse is taking her across the water to what is the river, which is a giant iceberg. And so now she is starting to understand that, of course, she has some purpose here. And so now the voice is no longer haunting her. She knows it has a message for her, it has a purpose for her, and that she is going to find out why she is here, why she is the way she is. And she comes into a room. This was a fantastic song. But she comes into the room, and it's almost like in the Truman Show. You know how where you see all the screens, and basically what she's seeing is her life replayed, and her mother is the voice that she hears. Now, what I didn't share with you in an earlier part was that we find out that her mother is actually one of the indigenous people, and that her mother was the person who saved her father somehow, and wasn't sure if she was a spirit or if she knew how to operate and use the spirits to protect him and get him to safety. So Elsa's mother is singing this harrowing song to call her to this place so that she can fulfill her purpose. And so then we see the water that has memory. It's frozen all around her. We see images from the first movie, and she's walking through. We even see her in her, the cold doesn't bother me anyway, walking, and she's kind of reminiscing about, how she was kind of so silly in those thoughts and at that time. But it's just showing the progression of her life when she was young, when her mother was alive, and spending time with her and Anna, and just her life is flashing before her, basically. And then she sees a figure of her grandfather, and she hears him tell I was going to say Asgardian, wrong show, the Arendelle Guard, that he wants all of the Arendelle Guard to be present at this meeting. And one of the generals says, there's no need for us to do that. We're all coming in peace. And he says, just do what I tell you. And then she follows him deeper into the iceberg, to a point where he goes down into this really deep, low place. And so she follows him, and she finds that that one of the, I guess, the tribes people, the indigenous people, are telling her grandfather that this dam isn't helping them. In fact, it's hurting them. And her grandfather knew. Her grandfather knew that it was hurting them and did it intentionally to try to control them, because what he said was magic was dangerous, and that these people can't be controlled by anything because they believe in the magic. And so we find that he was not a very good man. And while Elsa is watching this, she is being overcome by the cold, and which was interesting because, she was never, the cold never bothered her anyway, but she was in this very low level place where she was understanding who she was, understanding her purpose, but also realizing that something very terrible had happened. And so she calls out to her sister at that moment, and magic goes up, and we see Anna and Olaf in this cavern, and we see all of a sudden a figure of her grandfather, Anna's grandfather, and one of the tribes people, and her grandfather has a sword drawn, and he's about to attack, and the tribes person is sitting with their back towards them, about to drink some tea. And so she realizes at that moment that something went really, really wrong. Yes, something went really wrong that day, and it was caused by her grandfather. And so she knows what they need to do. She knows that they need to get rid of the dam. And as they start to go, Olaf starts to flurry, and he says, I feel like I'm fading. The magic that brought me to life is gone, and so I'm fading. And so she understands that to be that Elsa is gone, that Elsa is no more. She is the magic that created Olaf, and Olaf disappears, and she is left holding him in this cave, in this really dark moment. So remember, they went from this angry feeling of, Elsa going on without them, Elsa abandoning them. And then, the thing that she felt like she was called to do, Anna felt like she was called to do, was protect her sister. The thing that she felt responsible for, it happens that she is not able to protect her sister, and her sister is gone, and now it's just her, and she doesn't even have Olaf, and she never knows if she'll ever get out of that cave. And Anna has this dark night of the soul. moment. If you don't know what a dark night of the soul is, it's where you start to question everything that you are and why you're here, and nothing really matters. You're in this pit of despair. But the pit of despair is designed to cause you to call up from within yourself that very thing that is the source of your being, that is what we call God, that is what we call the momentum of why we really came here, your soul's power. And so she sings this song where she's in complete defeat, and somehow she is gaining just enough strength to do the next right thing. She knows what she needs to do. She knows that she has failed in the area of protecting her sister and keeping things the same. But she also knows that she has to take the next step, that she has to do the next right thing. And so she, sorrow felt, goes through the tunnel and finally sees the light and is able to get out and see the dam that she knows that she needs to destroy. And they're coming. So just so you know. Mommy, can we have some cheese doodles? You can eat the ones that are out, and I'll be right with you in a second, okay? What's more? Cause there's only just go eat the ones that are out, and I'll be with you in a second. So, I told you, this is not a regular YouTube channel. So anyway, she steps out and sees the light, and she knows what she needs to do, and she gets an idea. And basically what it is that when we are in the low points of our life, we don't know what we need to do, but we just do the next thing. If we listen to our soul, even in our despair, we listen to our soul and we just do the next thing. Sometimes the next right thing is just waking up. Sometimes the next right thing is taking a step and listening to what your heart, what your soul knows that you need to do, which you don't feel like you have strength to do on your own. But if you continue to listen, your soul will guide you. It will tell you the steps that you need to go. And so she sees the people, the giant earth people, and she decides that she's going to get them to help her to tear down this dam. Now, at this time, they have not been tamed. They still are angry. And so they're angry at people. And so she wakes them up and they start to chase her. And then the Arendelle guard see her trying to go towards the dam and they want to stop her. And she, at that moment, tells them, look, I know what you've been told, but my grandfather lied to us all. He lied to us all because he wanted power. He wanted to control. And we have to get rid of this dam. And so at that moment, they rally with her and they believe in her. And she just continues to do what she knows she needs to do, even though she's so wrecked with sorrow. And they finally tear down the dam. And she knows that tearing down the dam is going to destroy Arendelle. It's going to destroy everything that her family built. And the place that she grew up and knew and loved. But she knows that that's the right thing to do, even though it's going to destroy Arendelle. And she knows that the elements helped her because they got everybody out of the city. Remember, I told you the water went out, the fire went out, there was a huge earthquake, and all of the people were safe and away from the city. And so a huge tidal wave comes down and starts rippling through the water and is rushing towards Arendelle. And then we see Elsa on her water horse, riding the element of water. And she is able to come in front of that tidal wave that's about to that's miles, only like 2 miles away from Arendelle, and is able to put up her frozen magic and put up a wave that sends the tidal wave in another direction. And so Arendelle's safe, but Anna doesn't know that. And so at that moment, the fog is lifted and all of the spirits, all of the elements have have understood that these people now no longer need to be contained because they are of pure heart and they are ready to work together and love one another. And the biggest sacrifice was made by Anna, knowing that she needed to rectify the wrongs of the past. That was so deep for me, because it was like, oftentimes we know that wrong has been done, but we understand that if we do the right thing, that it's going to affect us in some way. But doing the right thing is required in order for us to move forward into a better future. You look at this when it comes to the stealing of native lands in America. You look at this when it comes to the wrongs of slavery and all the Holocaust. We look at how the wrongs of this world, they can't be made right, and that those who have been affected by them or have been destroyed by them can no longer have, be affected by that. We can't change what happened, but we can change how we move forward. And I love that. That was such a powerful message. And it really does require us to change our hearts and also see other people as just as important as us, no matter where they come from, who they are, what they look like. And so that was a powerful moment for me. And then we see Elsa coming back on her horse, and Anna realizing that her sister is not gone, that she actually did save her sister once again by doing the right thing, not sitting in her turmoil, not sitting in her fear or her anger or her sorrow, but by just going the next step, doing the next right thing. That was the takeaway for me, is we don't know what us doing the next right thing, the impact that it will have on others, the impact that it will have on the surrounding, the people around us, our surroundings, our world. And it's very important to take away that message, to understand that, yes, there will be dark nights of the soul. We will have times where people die, or we feel that people die, because they're no longer in this physical body. We will have times where things change and we feel like we don't know where we belong anymore. But when we connect with our soul and we know who we are, and Anna knew that she was a protector. She knew that she was a protector. She knew that she was a restorer of life. And so she knew that she had to do those things. She had to restore life. She had to restore justice. And even in her moments of despair, she was able to pull herself from the core of who she was. Her spirit was able to do the next right thing. And so that is my takeaway from this beautiful, beautiful film. There's a lot I left out because I could go on forever talking about the things that I am learning in my spiritual journey, and how this movie spoke to me about where I'm going, how to get there, doing the next right thing, doing the thing that may not make sense in the moment, but knowing from my gut, knowing from my soul that this is what I'm to do. And it may not end up like I thought it would, but that I am called to do that thing, that we are called to do that thing. We are designed perfectly and purposefully. The spirit that created us, that creates worlds, designed us with a purpose and a plan. And our purpose is not like anybody else's. And so the thing that you are created to do, the thing that you are meant to do, no one else can do it but you. No one else can do it but you. And so if you rest in that understanding that We are here to learn lessons. Our lessons take us to that next level. And sometimes in our lessons, there's hard lessons that feel like we can't go on. But when we do move forward, when we do go on, when we do that next right thing, we are in alignment with our soul, and our soul's purpose is being fulfilled, and that it is all well. It is well. One last thing that I really liked, I'm having a new understanding of death. And as you may or may not know, I believe in all forms of truth, and I don't believe that truth just comes from one religion, one way of believing, one understanding. I believe that God has spoken, the Spirit has spoken to all people, and we all have our own way of interpreting the source of our being and understanding the source of our being. And it's important for us to listen to others, because then we can get pieces of their puzzle from them, and we get a bigger understanding of God, because God is infinite. The infinite cannot be nailed down in absolutes. So there is truth in all. And one of the things, there are some things in the Bible that I really can grasp and understand, and other things that don't resonate. And so I don't focus on those things, because I'm looking for expansion, not confusion. And when I don't understand something, I always ask God, and God always tells me, always. So anyway, one of the things that I have been understanding is death. And there is a saying, to be absent from the body is to be present with God. And we know before the foundations of the world, we were with God, that God knew us before he created anything else. And the way he knew us was because we were part of him. I like to say it's like a piece of clay that's infinite and never ending, right? If you can imagine that. And at that time, you were in there, and God, it knew when you were going to come into this physical body. It knew, and you knew with it, that you were going to have a purpose for being, and you for expand. This was an opportunity to expand who you are. And we agreed to it. We agreed to it. And so all of the things that happen in our life are designed to expand us, to bring us to a greater knowledge and awareness of God and God's consciousness. And so, again, to be absent from the body is to be present with God. So when you were not in your physical body, you were present with God. And when you leave your physical body, you are back present with God. And the great thing about God is it's an infinite presence that's never absent. And so God is here. God is everywhere. It is all present, all knowing. And so when those we love are gone from this physical body, they are back into this infinite presence that is surrounding us all. And so they are not really gone. They are with us, but just not in the form that we remember them. And so I have been able to take comfort in knowing that all of my loved ones, since we are surrounded by such great cloud of witness, right? All of my loved ones are still around me. They are still watching me. They are still guiding me and directing me through the presence that is never an absence. And so, I loved that idea that water has memory, and that I wonder if that's actually true, because it makes sense that those who have been with us in this physical body, that they are still with us in the water that we in the air that we translate into oxygen, and in the water that we drink. They are all around us, surrounding us, rooting us on, because they want us to expand just as God wants us to expand, so that we can come to this place where we have done the thing that we came to do. We have made the world a better place because we were in it, and we have fulfilled our purpose. So this is my review of Frozen 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to go back and watch it again so that I can get a little bit more from it. But I hope you enjoyed my little rendition and the lessons that I'm learning in my spiritual journey, and how God used this movie to continue to teach me those things. Have a great night.